Hey there, welcome to the weekend recap, and my goodness, do we ever have some interesting things to talk about from this weekend. I mean, here's looking at the Premier League, for one. But before we do that, a cool announcement, man, something I'm very excited about. A lot of you have requested that I start a podcast someday, and we've only gone and done it. Presenting to you the Unsackable podcast, started by myself, Manuel Vite, Filippo of Tactical Manager TV, and of course Josh from JJD TV. We all get along well, we have a great dynamic already, so this was a no-brainer. We'll cover European football, North American football, South American football, anything really. Our first pilot episode is available, which went live last Friday, and it will only get better from here as we develop it further. Give it a listen, we got some great, we all have differing interests and takes on things. I've linked to it below, and make sure you drop a follow on the podcast listening platform of your choice. We'll be recording the next one soon, covering all the hot topics in the world of football, and I very much appreciate your support, guys. So let's get started with the weekend recap. A quick European tour, as United supporters won't be the only ones that feel a little bit sore this weekend from a beatdown from their rivals. PSV, who are Ajax's closest rivals competition-wise in the Netherlands this season, were absolutely slapped about the pitch as the incredible Ajax continue to take names this season, man. Coming into this, Ajax were just a single point ahead of PSV, who, to their credit, have played some great football themselves as well. But if the Ajax vs Dortmund result was anything to go off of, Erik ten Hag isn't playing around this season, man, and has built yet another strong, exciting squad. 1-0 down at the half for PSV was a bit of a false hope for them to cling on to, as the second half saw Ajax just run away with it and score 4 more goals. A Tadic masterclass in this one as he set up Berghuis in the first half, he set up Haller, and he scored one himself. Klaassen and Antony with the other goals for Ajax, it was emphatic, to say the least, and they now lead the Eredivisie by 4 points. Utrecht got a win over Heerenveen. They aren't too far behind PSV, just the single point back. Over in France, while Lens and Nice got important wins against Metz and Lyon respectively, Le Classique was undoubtedly the most watched match of the weekend. And while it had its moments, overall, it wasn't the greatest match. There was some moments where the match was extremely stretched. There were times where Marseille came close. Here's looking at Milik and that header in the first half that he should have converted, or Conrad de la Fuente in the second half. But overall, it wasn't the best match you have seen all weekend. 0-0, a red card to Hakimi, credit to PSG for how they defended in the second, and shame on that Marseille supporter that killed the PSG counter with the ball at Messi's feet as he ran down the pitch. I mean, even those drop points don't do much to throw off PSG and their 7-point lead in Liga, as you can see here. This weekend, we had to say goodbye to Mark van Bommel as he was sacked as a consequence of Wolfsburg losing 2-0 against SC Freiburg. The still unbeaten Freiburg, by the way, so let's not allow this storyline to get lost in the Van Bommel talk, the Van Bommel blabbing. Christian Streich is still yet to lose a match in the Bundesliga and is hot on the heels of the top clubs in the league, so Freiburg are a fantastic team. Take nothing away from them. But you can't really blame Wolfsburg for the decision to sack their manager, especially when comparing to last season under Glasner. They've had a massive drop-off in performances and results. They do sit mid-table, but that's largely in thanks to the 4 consecutive wins from their opening 4 fixtures. Since then, they've collected 1 point from 5 matches in the Bundesliga, were eliminated from the Pokal from a stupid substitution mistake from Van Bommel, and haven't won a game in the Champions League. In all, a run of 8 matches without a single victory. Hard to look past that. Best of luck to Van Bommel wherever he ends up. I feel kind of bad, how I was saying how he wasn't the right appointment from the beginning, how he was an underwhelming signing, how he wasn't the right choice, but I mean, he quite clearly wasn't. Anyway, Bayern Munich rolled on as they were once again without Nagelsmann, and they have a bit of a COVID outbreak in their squad. They went up against one of the teams that they do drop points against now and then, up against Hoeneß's Hoffenheim, and they really didn't struggle too much. This Bayern team is just a step above everyone, really. Gnabry thought he had opened the scoring just 9 minutes in, but that was called back. No fuss there though, as he scored a legitimate goal in the 16th minute, set up by the next on deck Jamal Musiala. Lewandowski scored, of course, linking up with Thomas Müller, of course, and Dayot Upamecano got his 2nd and 3rd assists of the season in setting up the free score in Choupo-Moting, and Kingsley Coman laid on. Choupo-Moting, by the way, 4 goals in the last 5 matches, 4-0 for Bayern in the end. Borussia Dortmund bounced back from their massive loss midweek against Ajax. Supporters will have been relieved to see Arminia Bielefeld as their weekend opposition, a team sitting on just 5 points from 9 matches, not a win to their name yet, and that streak, of course, continued this weekend. After Chan and Hummels gave Dortmund the 2-0 lead at half, Jude Bellingham turned Bielefeld's defense inside out with a superb goal. My goodness, Bielefeld did pull one back to make it 3-1, but Dortmund, of course, with the big win there. RB Leipzig, they got a result that Jesse Marsch desperately needed, but a result that was always expected, right? They defeated Greuther Fürth 4-1, and credit to Marsch and Leipzig as they had to rally from 1 goal down in the second half, and did they ever. After going down from a PK on the stroke of halftime, they scored in the 46th minute of the second half. By the 53rd, they were ahead and continued adding to the score throughout. Szoboszlai with a goal and an assist as well. Hertha and Gladbach's topsy-turvy start to the season continued as they were defeated by Hertha Berlin, as Hertha are now on a 2-match winning run, so shout out to them. They're actually ahead of Gladbach in the table at this point. Mainz kicked the weekend off with a 4-1 win over Augsburg as Bo Svensson finally got his side back on track. They previously were on a 4-match winless run with 3 losses on the skid, so they had a similarly strong start to the season as Wolfsburg did, but thankfully for Bo Svensson, they finally made it past the difficult patch of fixtures they had, as they had played Leverkusen, Union Berlin, and Dortmund on the trot. Things improve for Mainz now as they will take on Bielefeld, Gladbach, and then a tricky one against Köln that could go either way, really. Köln, they tied with Leverkusen this weekend 2-2. Speaking of Union, they had a disappointing result against Stuttgart as they were 1-0 up and 1 man up, only for Stuttgart to find an equalizer in the 92nd minute. By the way, Taiwo Awoniyi with another goal, that's 7 from 9 in the Bundesliga this season, and including the Conference League, he scored in 5 consecutive matches, 6 goals total. No buyback clause as far as I understand for Liverpool, but they do get a 10% sell-on fee. A frustrating first half for Eintracht Frankfurt against VfL Bochum turned out to be a terrible result as they were beaten 2-0 against the newly promoted side. Scarily enough for them, Eintracht Frankfurt are sitting just a single point above the relegation playoff spot in Germany. Scarily now, but still a long season ahead of them. At the other end of the table, let's take a look at that now. At the other end, Bayern on 22, Dortmund on 21, and Freiburg and Leverkusen not too far off either. An extremely tough weekend for United supporters, even worse yet if you're Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I'm unsure just how many supporters he has behind him at this point. Last week's thumbnail said, "Is this still progress?" As that's often the common defense behind Ole. He's making progress more than other managers have. But at this point, it's got to be hard to back him and defend him. Better yet, it's got to be hard to see how he can come back from Sunday's humiliation. He clearly has no more to offer this side as a manager. The gulf in class between the two clubs was embarrassing, really. If you want to take it to the next level, I don't know that Ole can do that. 5-0 was the final, and Liverpool stopped playing in the final 25 to 30 minutes or so, as it could have been much, much worse. The organization of this United squad is non-existent, while Liverpool, on the other hand, are looking like they're getting close to their best under Klopp again. There have been moments where their defense has looked like it hasn't been able to find itself, or at the least reach the 2019-20 levels, but they stood strong against United for the most part. Some scary moments, yes, but overall decent. As for Liverpool's attack, we can absolutely say that Mo Salah is back to his best as he scored a hat-trick against United at Old Trafford, and they did hit it out of Canter, really. That's all the more damning for United. Anyway, I'm sure there will be some news from Manchester soon, and if there isn't, that tells you all you need to know about the club. You don't win trophies from progress. You don't win trophies for getting the club back on track. You win affection from the fans, absolutely, but that's about it. And for anyone who tells you he needs time to learn more, they're forgetting that he has been a manager for 10 years now. He's not new to this. He is who he is as a manager. United isn't a place where you can learn on the job, as Jamie Carragher had mentioned, and there aren't signs of anything being learned anymore, in my opinion. Speaking of managers who are having a tough time, Nuno Espírito Santo has also had a bit of a topsy-turvy start to his Tottenham career, as Tottenham went away to West Ham, had all of the ball, but struggled to break down West Ham. Nuno said that he and the players believed they were the superior team, but an inability to break down West Ham and the limited opportunities they had say otherwise. For West Ham's part, they were patient, and Michail Antonio's great run of form under Moyes continued as he scored what would be the winner in the 72nd minute. That was his 6th goal in the Prem from just 8 appearances. Leicester continued to roll on this weekend as they built on their win over United with a 2-1 victory over Brentford, away to Brentford as well, which is not always an easy place to go. Now I say that, but I checked myself and they have just one victory at home in the Premier League, which seems a bit off. To be fair to them, I guess, they've lost to Brighton, Leicester, and Chelsea at home. Not the easiest opposition. Speaking of Brighton, they were stomped at home by Manchester City, who it is becoming more and more obvious are not only fully on their feet again, but are up and running and are looking as dangerous as ever. The Rodri and Bernardo central midfield combo was one of the best, most unexpected things to come out of this season for me. I mean, shame on me for doubting Bernardo, though. He could do a job as keeper. I am sure of it. City got goals from Gundogan, a brace from Foden, who also got an assist, by the way. What a player he is. And a late marker from Mahrez as well. So great stuff for Manchester City. They do play United soon, by the way. Hard times for Norwich, who are already struggling. And then they got baptized by Chelsea this weekend. 7-0. My goodness, it was bad enough. And then when 5-0 down, I mean, Gibson got himself sent off and Chelsea added a couple more. With Lukaku and Werner injured, the Chelsea Academy boys really grabbed a hold of this one with Mount, Hudson-Odoi, and Reece James all scoring goals. Mount himself got a hat-trick on the day. Chilwell with the other, and a Max Aaron's own goal. 7-0, quite the ridiculous weekend. Arsenal actually kicked the weekend off with a great victory over Aston Villa, 3-1 there. Emile Smith-Rowe catching the headlines for his fantastic performance as he got a goal and an assist, and in general was just causing major issues for Villa. My God, Ranieri got Watford winning with an emphatic 5-2 victory away to Everton. Can you believe that? Because I certainly could not when I received that notification of the score from OneFootball. Not sponsored, by the way, not an ad, just a fact, I guess. And so to the table, we also saw Newcastle and Palace tie 1-1. Leeds and Wolves equaled that. And Southampton and Burnley at 2-2 means the top half of the table sees Arsenal and Leicester just on the edge. But consider this. United are now on level points with Leicester and Arsenal, who had bad starts to the season. While at the top, we have Chelsea, Liverpool, and City, all just separated by a point apiece. West Ham in the mix in 4th, Brighton in 5th, still despite that heavy loss. In Spain, Sevilla beat down on a poor Levante side who are sitting second from the bottom currently as they won 5-3. 5 different scorers in this one for Sevilla and 5 different guys assisting as well. Oliver Torres, he grabbed one of each, the greedy boy. I think if there was to be a complaint from Lopetegui, it would be the lax, loose defending from Sevilla at times. So, I mean, credit to Levante, of course, for converting their opportunities, but Sevilla conceded as many goals in this one match as they had all season long in La Liga prior to this game. Athletic Club made it 2 wins on the trot as they beat Villarreal to make it 2 losses on the trot for Emery and the boys. Such a strange club, man. If I could point to anything for Villarreal, it's just a total lack of consistency. It's got to be frustrating watching them week in, week out, never knowing what you're going to get. 2 wins, 5 draws, 2 losses. Maybe they are consistent after all because their record is perfectly balanced. Real Betis had a bit of a scare against high-flying Rayo Vallecano this past weekend. After going 2-0 up in the first half, Rayo pulled themselves level by the time the 65th minute had come around, but a Willian Jose penalty called game for Betis. 3-2 there, as they are enjoying life under Pellegrini these days. And of course, the big match of the weekend was no doubt Real Madrid taking on FC Barcelona, and it went in the direction that I think most will have expected. In the end, despite the tight scoreline, 2-1, it was relatively comfortable for Real Madrid. Relatively. That's not to say that Barcelona didn't have their opportunities, because they did. But the ease of which Real Madrid could skate through their defense, how dangerous they looked on the counter. I mean, it was feasible to think that they had a good opportunity to score each time they went forward, especially in that first half. Rodrigo, Benzema, Vinicius, looking great together once again. But like I said, Barca had chances. In fact, at 0-0, a ball through the box from Memphis found its way to Dest, and with Courtois at his mercy, he blazed it over the bar. Poor from Dest. If we're giving him the slightest of breaks, a touch from Fati on the way to Dest caused the ball to bobble a little bit. Maybe that's why he lifted it so much, but still, that's a massive reach. He's at least got to get that on target. And sure enough, you don't take your chances, and Real will punish you, and that's exactly what they did. David Alaba, playing as a center back, was at the heart of a stunning Real Madrid counter, arrowing the ball into the far corner out of reach for Ter Stegen. Great finish from him in his first Clásico. In the second half, Barcelona began to push late on, but for most of it looked more likely that Real would double than Barca would equalize. But with all of that pushing, they left themselves exposed to counterattacks, and with Asensio forcing a save, Vasquez beat Garcia to the ball to make it 2-0. A consolation for Aguero later. That's a positive for Barca. 2-1 Real Madrid in the end. Deserved result at Camp Nou. After having some great moments against Liverpool and looking like, despite it being a loss, they had something to build upon in the attack with Felix and Griezmann. This match actually sort of followed a similar trajectory, but with a bit of a twist up against Real Sociedad. First off, Sociedad, we gotta applaud them because since their opening loss against Barcelona this season, they haven't lost a single match across all competitions. And their Nordic boys were in form up against Atletico. First, Isak set up Sorloth for his first goal since joining Sociedad. Then later, Isak got a goal himself. He's been in brilliant form recently, hasn't he? But credit to Atletico. Again, they found themselves down in a 2-0 hole at home. And again, they were able to rally. First, on the hour mark, João Felix stabbed a ball into the middle and Suarez nodded it into the goal to start the comeback. Then later on, some sloppy defending from Mikel Merino in the box forced the referee into a decision, ultimately awarding a penalty to Atletico, and Suarez converted for 2-2. Great fight from Atleti, but these slow starts have got to be frustrating for the fans, and Simeone pointed to that after the match as well. Real Sociedad still top the table in La Liga. Real Madrid, Sevilla, and Atleti, they all have a match in hand, and they are hungry and circling around them. A momentous occasion in Italy, an event that transcends football amongst mere mortals. No, I'm not talking about the Derby d'Italia. I'm talking about a brand new Zlatan record, something that's never been done before by him. An own goal. For the first time in his career, Zlatan has scored an own goal. He is just a man after all. But that said, up against Bologna this weekend, he had plenty of contributions. Good contributions I'm talking about here. He set up Rafa Leão for the opener, as well as scoring what was AC Milan's fourth goal in a 4-2 win over Bologna. Now, this was closer than they would have liked, especially considering they were 2-0 up after 35 minutes, having been a man up since the 20th minute after a red card for Bologna Sumoro. Despite being a man down, Bologna scored twice to make it 2-2, but after they had a second man sent off, Roberto Soriano this time, Milan was able to save the result. A goal from Benacer and the aforementioned Zlatan Ibrahimovic strike, 4-2, but Milan fans will tell you that it wasn't the most convincing 4-2 they've ever seen. Topsy-turvy has been the motto of this episode, and that's a great descriptor for Lazio's Serie A season so far. They're in a decent position still, far off of the top, but still top 10 at least, and they were smacked this weekend by Hellas Verona. 4-1, Gio Simeone with the poker, 4 goals from him, scoring every single one for Hellas Verona. Honestly, the decision to sack Eusebio De Francesco after 3 matches, lost consecutively at the beginning of the season, was a masterstroke. They're now just 3 points behind Lazio actually on 11. Atalanta were held by Udinese 1-1. Roma and Napoli had the potential to be a great game, but that one ended 0-0 as well. Inter and Juve, that one had potential to be great as well, but that one ended 1-1 after Dzeko put Inter ahead early in the first half. The second saw Juve really come into the match and put the heaters on that Inter back line, and eventually a swipe from Dumfries on Sandro's foot gave Juve a very cheap penalty, really. You put the referee in the position to make a decision there, and while I don't love the call, as Sandro probably wouldn't have got the ball anyways, like I said, you're forcing a decision out of the referee, and it's a coin flip at that point. Absolutely hate those kinds of penalties, especially since it wasn't clear and obvious. The referee saw it the first time, said it wasn't a penalty, then he got called over by VAR, and once they get called over by VAR, more often than not, they're going to call it. But yeah, you absolutely hate those kinds of penalties, and if I'm an Inter supporter, I'm fuming. If you're a Juve supporter and that penalty is awarded against you, you're fuming, and you're bringing up the trash can for a heart quotes again. And Fiorentina got a very convincing 3-0 win against Cagliari with goals from Vlahovic, Biraghi, and Gonzalez. I fear for Cagliari this season. This may just be it for them, So, Napoli's still in the lead at the top without a loss to their name. In fact, they have an identical record to that of AC Milan, both on 25 points, 7 ahead of Inter, and it gets tight from 4th onward in the table. That's all, guys. Thanks so much for watching this one and spending your time with me. Don't forget to check out the podcast if you want some great content on the go. We'll post weekly for now, maybe twice a week in the future. But anyways, thanks again. I'm Adrian. This is Rabona TV, and we'll catch you later. Ciao.